Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to whoever it is in the world you are streaming here on Twitter as well as on YouTube. I got it all figured out, and on Twitch. Wednesday live Q&A with your boy. Let me get pull this up so I can see your guys' chat. Safe space with Wob as always around 6:15 p.m. Eastern, 3:15 p.m. Pacific, and noon on the islands. Aloha to all of you out there in the world. What's happening, my friends? Allow you a couple of moments to get up in here and prepare for today's session. Man, is it hot? It is humid. I mean, I have one of those humid sweats going on. I'm glad I'm wearing a black shirt, by the way. It's going to be. Remember when he said, Colin Sexton said this at the beginning of last season? All right, people, what do you got? What's on your mind? It's a whole bunch of Knicks previews, I imagine. First question I see is from Dylan talking about the biggest X factor in the Eastern Conference Finals. Well, I'm going to have to repeat myself for those of you that listened to the show a little bit earlier, but I imagine you're here because you didn't hear the answer. The number one priority, and I had it as the number one question by far going into this series, and now even more so after the game in Oklahoma City last night. Seeing how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was officiated, how the referees officiated that game, and the impact that a single person can have on the whistle. And long story short, the X factor is how Jalen Brunson is officiated in this series, period. Now, I looked at the referee assignments tonight. There's no Tony Brothers. It's led by Zach Zarba and some other guys that I would, on an officiating political spectrum, I would say they are more moderate than anything in regards to enforcement of the rule book and the physicality that's permitted, because we know that Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard are going to want to pick up Jalen Brunson full court, just like they did to Donovan Mitchell, to make him work. And they were allowed to do pretty much anything: grabbing, running through screens, getting physical, chicken wings, arm bars, you name it. It didn't matter. Like, they got away with it all. And by the time they got to the end of the game, Donovan Mitchell didn't have the legs that he did in the first couple of rounds. First couple of rounds, using the proverbial boxing fight as an analogy here. So how Aaron Nesmith is officiated will determine the victor of this series. That is by far the number one thing that matters. And Andrew Nembhard, those two. TJ McConnell can be included as well. You can sit here and say, well, Mitchell Robinson, Karl Anthony Towns, those dual center lineups against Miles Turner, in whom Pascal Siakam. Okay, well, we've seen Tobias Harris try and guard Karl Anthony Towns out on the perimeter. This was the purpose of cutting off those three-point attempts, choking off those three-point attempts. He's trying to space the floor for Jalen Brunson. It's when he's at his absolute best. But Karl Anthony Towns quickly realized, you're a lot smaller than I am, and I have a lot of skill. If I go down onto this block and I demand the basketball, I can put a smaller defender through the grinder down here on the block. So Tobias Harris, he caught some L's. Jaylen Brown and Jrue Holiday were out there patrolling the three-point line against Karl Anthony Towns. Cat took him down to the post and put him to work. So if they put Pascal Siakam on Karl Anthony Towns tonight and leave Miles Turner more so attached to the rim as the anchor and roaming as that interior free safety in the restricted area, that's certainly his preference. You don't want Miles Turner 30 feet away from the rim trying to keep up with Karl Anthony Towns that way. Cat's just too good with the basketball. He's certainly flight of foot on the offensive side. But if Mitchell Robinson's on the floor, then you're going to be stuck with Pascal. And not that Pascal is a small human being by any means, but he will be put to the test down there on the block. That has not been the solution that it was during the regular season, when Karl Anthony Towns was limited to no more than 2 3-pointers in all 9 of those matchups against the Cavaliers, the Celtics, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. He is identifying and exploiting all of those mismatches, taking those defenders down to the block instead of acquiescing to them outside of the 3-point arc, by him just standing there and serving as a floor spacing catch and shoot guy does not complement his talents the way that it normally should. So for him to be violent and aggressive and be that bodega cat that we have seen from start to finish this year is going to be essential as well. But the referees officiating of Aaron Neesmith and Andrew Nemhard by far on my radar is number one, because if they start blowing the whistle and they let Jalen Brunson get into them drawing contact, and the head's going to be doing a whole bunch of this, if they're blowing the fouls the same way that they did with Shea, Indiana's in trouble. Indiana's going to be in some quick trouble because they are over aggressive, and nobody knows how to turn the tables on that more than Jalen Brunson this postseason. So those are my thoughts on looking forward to this one. And you will see some fans, because we have different officiating crews that have different styles and preferences, right? So if Shea gets a whistle, but Jalen doesn't, everyone's just going to be talking about the inconsistency of the playoffs and how the first round was you had to have a severed arm or get decapitated for them to blow a foul. It was no blood, no foul. Prison ball rules, shoe program. It's the only way you're getting a whistle. That was not the case at the Paycom Center in Oklahoma City last night. And if there's anyone out there who can play the game within the game, as Antonio likes to say, it's certainly Jalen Brunson. Anthony Edwards chose not to participate in that. Therefore, last night you saw 51 three-pointers go up for the Minnesota Timberwolves. The referees didn't have the opportunity to even issue a makeup call. They didn't have, if you attempt 51 threes, that lets the referees off the hook when you are rim running and putting downhill pressure on the rim. Sometimes you are forcing the referees to eventually to step in and say, okay, that one was a foul. If you're just pulling up for 25-foot jumpers, you let them off the hook. They had 0 fast break points last night. 0. That was the most amount of points scored in the paint all season long, including the regular season for Minnesota. They conceded 31 points off of turnovers. That team turns the ball over like crazy to begin with. You can't do it against OKC. That team is a guaranteed 2 points if you let them get out into fast breaks, secondary transition, or even defensive rebounds are treated like live ball turnovers. It's a guaranteed 2 points. So the quality and the look for Oklahoma City is significantly less difficult than the one the other team is getting. And I fear that could be the case for Indiana if the Knicks are living at the free throw line and they can't use that defensive physicality to keep Jalen Brunson from asserting his influence as that offensive initiator. Those are my thoughts. After that, Man United. So what? You know what? I saw the result on that. I find it crazy that the winner of the Europa League gets to play Champions League football next season. So Tottenham was all the way at the bottom of the table, barely survived relegation. They beat Man United in the Europa League final. Now they have a major trophy and they get to play Champions League football next season. That's a pretty big win. Were they just tanking the entire regular season in preparation of winning this tournament pretty much, since they were going to finish mid-table anyway? I love the structure of European football, man. I wish we had relegation here. Tanking would not be a thing. Scotty says, as a Pacers fan, I'm so ready for this series. It's going to be popcorn. Yep. And it doesn't even matter what age you are. Boomers, Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z all have their own version of Knicks-Pacers rivalry. This started with 1992. Was one of the original Starks headbutts to Reggie Miller. We had Hicks versus Knicks in the newspapers. We had Spike Lee versus Reggie. Then we had John Starks again versus Reggie. We had the Reggie Miller airball in 94, the Patrick Ewing tip slam, the Patrick Ewing missed layup in 1995, the Larry Johnson 4-point play in 1999. By the way, one of the most underrated plays of all time that doesn't get talked about enough. At the end of Game 7 in 1994, they ruled a flagrant foul on Reggie Miller for running over and trying to put John Starks at the free throw line in the most obvious foul spot possible, and they gave it a flagrant foul. It was the most important call. If that shit happened today, they wouldn't stop talking about that for months and months and months. But it's a play still that you rarely hear about. Go back and watch the final seconds. A pretty basic take foul was ruled flagrant, and the Knicks win as a result. 99 with LJ 4-point play. Roy Hibbert meeting Carmelo Anthony at the Summit in that series in 2013 or so. Paul George team. Last year's Game 7, Andrew Nembhard shot back in Indianapolis, goes to Game 7, and then we run it back this year with Brunson and Halliburton. A question from Carson. He asks, who do you think will be the next American-born MVP? Obviously not Wemby. Obviously not Shea. Not Giannis. Not Luka. Not Jokic. It's got to be Anthony Edwards, does it not? It's going to be, you would normally say maybe Jason Tatum, but Achilles injury, only so many have come back from that and been 100% of their old self. So I'll go with Anthony Edwards for an American. Yeah. Killian says if Shea wins MVP, Western Conference Finals MVP, Finals MVP, and the scoring title, where does that season rank all time? Pretty fucking high. One of the best ever. I mean, all the numbers from the NBA regular season are going to be historical marks because efficiency and net ratings are higher than ever. And the way that the game is officiated is incentivizing scoring and breaking records. That's part of the NBA's business model, but you can't take that away from him. You get all of those accolades. One of the best seasons ever. As a number 1 seed as well. 68 wins. That's one of the best individuals. I don't care how he gets it done. If he's an ethical hooper, you won't be able to deny that. That doesn't happen by accident. E.T. Lanham says Brunson better not be foul baiting all series. Well, he will be. It's just a matter of if he gets rewarded and he's the beneficiary of a whistle that rewards it. MCC asks, what's on the betting card today? On ProfitX, of course. Funny you ask. I do have a bet for you guys that I haven't placed yet, but it is my bet of the night. Boy, am I tilted, by the way. I am tilted. I took Alex Caruso's unders yesterday, and I lost all of them by the hook. I capped it perfectly, and he made all 3 of his 3-pointers. 8.5 was his total, and he got 3 rebounds, so everything covered by a half. He was up. He didn't miss a single shot from beyond the arc. He only got up 4 total attempts. It was perfectly capped. He only played 20 minutes. Thought there could be potential for a blowout as well. I nailed it, and he somehow got there on the over. Boy, was I pissed. Pissed. Now, how are we going to make up for that? Same theory applies here. Who's a guy that I can nominate to get into foul trouble tonight? I am sitting here telling you this series will be determined by how Aaron Nesmith is officiated by the referees. And if there's any consistency from last night, Aaron Nesmith will be in foul trouble tonight, the same way that Jaden McDaniels fouled out in 23 minutes yesterday. Aaron Nesmith normally isn't playing the full 40-plus minutes anyway. If he gets into foul trouble, we could see between 15 and 25. Therefore, $20 on Aaron Nesmith under 12.5 points due to him being on the bench for longer than anyone would anticipate. There you go. Aaron Nesmith is my pick tonight, under 12.5 at -118 odds. Carter says these award releases are stupid. Why can't they do a show that does all the awards at once? Have you? What do you say? I don't. I'm sorry. That was a genuine question, Carter. So I promise my tone should not sound accusatory. But do you guys not remember what happened 16 minutes ago? Only 15 minutes ago? They had award shows for years at the end of June. The reason why they stopped doing them is because players wouldn't show up to it unless they knew that they won. So it gave away who was going to win the award when it was just James Harden there or just Giannis Antetokounmpo there. You knew he was going to win MVP. So that's why they stopped doing it. But they did award shows where they did them all at once. I have not forgotten about that TJ McConnell game winner over Kristaps Porzingis in 2017. I know exactly where I was. I was in the Fox Sports office in Playa del Rey. Watched that, and I just went and sat in silence. My nemesis. And I think the Sixers that night were like in pure tank mode too, if I'm not mistaken. They still won. Dylan asks, how do I feel about who won the Knicks Wolves trade? I mean, they both won. Both those teams somehow end up making the finals. That's one of the best trades ever. The first season after the blockbuster, you both make the finals and one of them ends up winning the title as a result. That's one of the best trades ever. They should hang that from the rafters in the rotunda for general managers and front office executives, the same way that players get it inside of NBA arenas that get their jersey retired. These general managers and presidents of basketball operations should have their suits retired. C. Sanchez says, what made you change your vote for MVP this year after going with the Joker for the first part of the season to SGA in the second part, despite Joker top 3 in all 4 major categories? Seeding mattered to me. That was a big one. The 68 wins. And there was a couple of weeks there because I give my leaders in the clubhouse that you're referencing is week to week. So like every single Friday, who's the leader in the clubhouse if the season were to end that day. There were a couple of weeks there. Of course, Jokic is all season long. He's putting up monster numbers where the Nuggets are losing games. He may have been out due to injury. He lost a game to, I remember there was a moment where it's like, yep, that's SGA's. Maybe it was against the Thunder exactly. But I mean, they're both, first of all, they're both worthy. You can vote either one and it's completely justified. But I went with the guy that had some holy shit moments. Jokic had plenty of holy shit moments too, but Shea eventually got his holy shit moments. I forgot specifically what it was. Maybe Helwick can save me on the big one that Shea had this year. I've got it all written down. You have to be a top 4 seed at the bare minimum is one of my requirements. I wasn't willing. My definition of valuable usually is what happens to the team when the player is taken off of it. And Jokic by far is the number one, VORP guy. He's he is irreplaceable. The team suffers incredibly without him in Oklahoma City. Is so deep. I didn't want success to take away from what he had accomplished that year, and thought he was the best player this season. Not the best player in the world, but I thought he had the best season. The accomplishments, finishing with that number 1 overall seed, setting the NBA mark for most amount of double-digit victories for a team in a single regular season. Man, he was so good. He was just so good. And I understand he doesn't get rebounds or like the defense too, man. He was a main contributor to this Oklahoma City defense being the number 1 rated. I do put a lot of value in two-way basketball. I'm more like 60-40 offense defense. Most people are like 80-20 offense defense. But for me, defense does matter. And when you are a main cog, one of those cornerstones of a defense that's first from start to finish on the season, I thought that really mattered. Now, we know Caruso and Dort and Case and Wallace. Those are individuals that assert their influence a little bit more as point of attack defenders. But Shea was out there, never a liability. Plenty of deflections and steals and influence that I thought that side of the ball he did beat Jokic on. That's my justification. I sound like I need a sip of water. Man, do you want to know what my schedule was yesterday? I woke up. I lay in bed for 30 minutes. I catch up on the news. Then I prepare for my radio show from 10 to 1. Radio show from 10 to 1. Then yesterday, Bleacher Report. Jaylen Brown trades for the Celtics from 3 to 4. Then from 4 till 5:30, pregame show with Sam Mitchell on Sirius XM. And then after the game is over, 2-hour postgame show with Sam Mitchell on Sirius XM. That's 5, 6.5, 7.5 hours of streaming plus police chases. That was another hour. And then another one today. And now I'm doing this stream. Then I'm doing the same shit all over again. I don't have the pregame show today, though. My God. Just streaming all day. All day. I don't know how you Zoomers do this regularly. Just wake up and start streaming. People just sit there in a chair and they stream for 12 hours a day. Now, you're probably not talking as much as I am, but sheesh. Can't exactly speak for Spurs, but for us, we didn't necessarily tank. We just prioritized winning Europa and winning Europa, and we're playing better going into it. Lost on a lucky bounce. I hate it. Yes, that sounds like soccer to me. Are you nervous or is it just me? I'm not nervous. I've seen too much. You guys know. All these gray hairs on my head, these silver streaks, those are wisdom streaks. This is one for every Knicks game that I've learned a lesson from. And when you get to be my age and you've been as close as the Knicks were in the 90s, how bad they were for 2 decades, nothing matters but the finals. Until they have 3 games in the finals, I will not. I will just be cautiously optimistic. Then I'll get excited. And if they get 3 games, if they have 3 wins in the finals, I will attend every single game until they win or lose. Then you will never hear from me again. And just a quick programming note, by the way. Unfortunately, this is a problem I didn't even realize because the Knicks haven't been this good, that the post-game show is going to overlap with my ability to post my post-game thoughts on Twitter immediately following the final buzzer. So you guys are going to have to wait like 2 hours until my post-game show is done, or you could just listen to the post-game show and get them there. What do I think of the league doing away with back-to-backs, reducing number of regular season games to 72? This you guys got to stop proposing this. The NBA will never take money out of their pockets to decrease the amount of games. They have this advertising, they have that's sold to broadcast partners for the next decade. It's not going to happen. It won't happen for decades. There's too much money to lose, too much money at stake. Suck it up, go out there and play. That's what they're telling the NBA guys. If they could do it in the 90s when the rehab process included a shot of whiskey and a cigarette, you guys can do it too. A couple of interesting theories that I wanted to, from our Sirius XM show that we came up with recently. Ryan McDonough proposed one of these as well as Antonio and I. What do you guys think about if you're defensive player of the year like Evan Mobley, it's almost a detriment to your own franchise. Yes, you get to put billboards up out on Euclid and 4th and say, we got the defensive player of the year playing in our city. That's cool. But now he's eligible for a significant bonus and increase that is going to really hurt your ability to improve the roster. And he deserves those dollars. He was defensive player of the year. He qualified for the bonus that is laid out in the collective bargaining agreement. But the Ryan McDonough rule, as we like to call it, is what if that player can still make that money, but the bonus money does not apply to the salary cap? That would be a way for the player to still get paid. So the players union is going to say yes. And then the NBA should say yes, because then teams still have that flexibility to be able to go out there and sign free agents or give extensions to players without soaring into the second apron like we're seeing some of these teams like the Boston Celtics. There's 5 franchises who are screwed right now. The Nuggets, the Suns, the Bucks, the Cavs, and the Celtics. Those 3 teams, their championship windows are in trouble because of the collective bargaining agreement. But if there were ways for you to offer that supermax money to players and it not count towards the hard cap, that would change a lot. And it wouldn't be such a, oh man, maybe we should be rooting against our guy to get all NBA so he doesn't qualify for the supermax. And now Antonio's theory was a homegrown one, that if you have 3 players, for example, Steph, Draymond, and Clay, and you're able to retain their services for, let's say, a minimum of 7 years, starting that third contract, there is a certain percentage, like 80% of that only applies to the salary cap. That if you're able to draft well and develop talent, you are rewarded 7 years later by being able to compensate them with a lot of money, not all of it, most of it, but not all of it, applying to the salary cap. So can you imagine if Clay, Draymond, and Steph, let's say they all made, just round numbers, $50 million a year, but only 40 million of it counts towards the cap. That's your reward for drafting well and keeping them in-house and not trading them away. Just a thought. What's my favorite Kyrie moment? Game 7, step back. The Thunder bench last night went to 10-man rotation. If Kenrich Williams played a couple of extra seconds, they would have had 5 guys who played double digits. And the difference there is Steve Kerr in the Warriors series was playing 12, 13 guys more out of necessity. And for OKC, it's a luxury. Like those guys can all seamlessly replace each other. And when your starters don't play 40 minutes, that will matter when we get to games 6 and 7, for sure. They'll have plenty, and they're already the youngest team in the league, or the youngest team remaining in the playoffs. They have their youth about them. They're going to have unlimited turbo. They're going to be, if OKC doesn't win the title, man, they should be pretty overwhelming favorites in my mind. Can you hear the Jaylen Brown trades? Sure. I took all. So here's the thing about doing trades. Some of these shows, like when people start sending around trades on the internet and on podcasts and stuff that I see aggregated, I'm like, that trade isn't even possible. Why are we wasting our time with that? And I took like an hour and a half to go into Sportrack. Is that the name of it? Sportrack? And make sure that all of these trades were legal based on the collective bargaining agreement. So first trade is Jaylen Brown going to the Rockets. Now, all of these trades are designed for the Boston Celtics to remain somewhat competitive while still decreasing their salary cap number. They're Jaylen Brown trades because he makes $53.1 million, and that number only goes up close to 70 by the end of the contract. So how can you keep the Celtics competitive trading away Jaylen Brown and also decrease salary? Because the Celtics were $20 million north of the second luxury tax apron going into next year. They're screwed. And that they're going to owe a luxury tax bill that's more expensive than their actual roster, because that interest compounds over time in the repeater tax for being in the luxury. Now they have $227 million committed to next season's roster, and then $238 million in luxury tax if they were to just run it back with their draft picks. That's insanity. So how do you bring that number down? It's got to be Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown goes to Houston for Fred VanVleet, Tari Eason, the number 10 pick in this year's draft. Now, Fred VanVleet has a team option, by the way. Fred VanVleet, you would opt in. He only has 1 year left, but he makes $44+ million. So all of that gets wiped off the books after this season. Number 10 pick in this year's draft, and the 2027 first rounder as well that has Brooklyn swap rights. So 2 first round picks unprotected, Fred VanVleet and Tari Eason. Another one is Jaylen Brown for Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine makes $47.7 million. Jaylen Brown again at $53.1. You would make roughly $6 million and get you all the way down to $12.0 million above the second apron. That also would require J.D. Davison being declined his team option. Utah Jazz, Lauri Markkanen for Jaylen Brown, and also Utah's 2027 first round pick. So Markkanen, 2027 first round pick for Jaylen Brown. Markkanen makes $46.3 million for the next 4 years. Jaylen Brown, $53.1. You would save a little less than $7 million. It gets you down to $13.2 million above the second apron. You also get a first round draft pick there for downgrading from Jaylen to Lauri. And then the big one. You guys ready for this one? This one actually works. It's my favorite one. Jaylen Brown and their first round pick this year, number 28 in this year's draft, to New Orleans for Zion Williamson, Jordan Hawkins. Jordan Hawkins is going to be due an extension on his rookie deal. Zion Williamson, $39.4 million. So giving it to incentivize the Pelicans to part ways with Zion, you send them that pick. And oh, by the way, if the Boston Celtics send their first round pick this year, they also don't owe that guaranteed money. That gets them down below the apron or even closer to it. They would be only a couple million short of being above the second apron there. So Jaylen Brown and their first round pick for Zion and Jordan Hawkins. And because that first round pick is included, the Pelicans might be thinking we get a guy that we can rely on full time. If it wasn't working out in New Orleans for Zion, despite his potential, we also get a first round pick to replenish Jordan Hawkins with. Just saying, everyone wins. All right, Wob, what's the funniest Sam Mitchell coaching soundbite? Oh, that's by far, yeah. That man went out there and had zeros in the box score. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I'm going to use that on him on Thursday. I'm definitely going to use that on him on Thursday because he's been making this point against me on the show when he's adamant that Minnesota is going to come back and win the series, and I think OKC is going to advance. And last night I was giving it to him pretty hard, and we bet a pretty significant dinner on the results. He gave me the 1-0 series lead in OKC, straight up dinner for dinner. Like, okay, I'm definitely in for that one. I know I'm getting some serious EV here, estimated value or closing line value compared to where the series is at now with the 1-game lead. And if they end up losing that game too, I'm gonna start off the post-game show. You're gonna hear me say, "Hey, coach, how many games is Minnesota gonna win this series?" Well, Rob, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That's how I'm gonna get him. That's how I'm gonna get him. What else you guys got? I will always remember Kenrich Williams as being the guy guarding LeBron on a scoring record-breaking shot. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Is luxury tax even relevant to Ballmer? No. Not to Ballmer, but the reason why he didn't pay Paul George wasn't because of the luxury tax. It was because they thought Paul George wasn't worth a 4-year deal, and he most certainly was not. We'd rather use that cap space elsewhere. Am I worried about the Knicks' lack of depth for the Knicks in this series? Yeah, absolutely. Pacers have hockey shifts of it's like a pterodactyl that just went flying by my window. Yeah, the Pacers can run 10 deep. They want to turn every series into a war of attrition. And the closer that this gets to a game 6 and a game 7 is where their advantage is going to be more and more prevalent. We saw it last year. The Knicks ran out of bodies. They got hurt. OG's hamstring. Jalen Brunson hurts his wrist, his hand. It turned into the Alec Burks game. The Knicks just didn't have enough. War of attrition will be won by the Pacers. Absolutely. So the Knicks got to take the first 2 games and play in front. I really just suggested LaVine for Jaylen Brown in earnest. I did because of the salary cap difference, and they would replace Jaylen Brown. And of course, Sacramento would sign up to do this because they can anytime that they get offered a finals MVP or someone of relevance, Vivek is running to the front of the line and saying 1, 2, 3, Nick rocks. Give me, give me, give me. But yeah, Zach LaVine, he can replace a lot of what Jaylen does, but more importantly, he makes $5-6 million less than Jaylen, even more than that. And we're trying to save money towards the apron without stripping the team down for parts. And I think that trade accomplishes it. That Zion trade is awesome. If New Orleans wants out of the Zion business, now Zion doesn't play, people think because he's overweight or because he's out of shape. And that certainly may contribute to it. But New Orleans also makes the conscious decision at the end of the season that Zion's going to be in and out of the lineup because we're trying to lose games. They're trying to get a better draft pick. We're not playing for much, and we'd rather preserve his longevity. So he wasn't playing due to direction from the team, more so than him actually being available. Now, if you were to get Zion for 65 games per year, I would rather have him than Jaylen Brown personally, despite being finals MVP. I think Zion's the best finisher in the world at the rim. I really do. He's like the season that he had, nobody cared because of how poor the Pelicans record was. That guy is phenomenal. Oh my God. He's so good. And he can't even shoot threes, and it doesn't matter. He can get to the rim anytime. Everyone knows he's going left too. He's so good at finishing. His footwork and his handles down around the rim is something different. But yeah, you trade Jaylen, you bring in Zion, you save a ton of money. You get Jordan Hawkins too. Jordan Hawkins was playing quite well towards the end of the season. You give up your pick. You don't have to guarantee that money to whoever number 28 is. That's going to be between $3 and $5 million. You get to wipe that off the books. I think that trade works. I think that trade works, and both parties would be very pleased, especially if New Orleans got Jaylen Brown. DeJounte Murray's banged up. He's going to be starting this season on the injured list. Jaylen Brown, you only got 1 year left of CJ McCollum. Who's going to replace all that usage if he leaves? Jaylen Brown. It works. Zion for Jaylen. What else you guys got? Do we need to bet on some more stuff here? if you're just joining us, my pick for the night is Aaron Neesmith here on ProfitX. You guys are using ProfitX, right? This is the community's exchange. It's not a sports book. You're betting against other people. It's peer to peer. Do they have specials? Let's see. Do they have specials? Pascal Siakam under 1.5 threes made sure feels like a winner to me. I don't like minus 152. Pascal Siakam. Kind of want to bet that. Mitchell Robinson's going to go flying over with his points too. I don't know if do you think they're going to hack a Mitch? I don't think they'll hack a Mitch in games 1 and 2. Where's that Pascal Siakam 3-pointer? Let's just put $10 on this just because I'm itching. Okay, $10 on that. What else? Where's my Mitchell Robinson points? Oh, Mitchell Robinson rebounds. Over. Oh, we're going over here. 6.5. Give me $10 on that. Dude, this guy is absurd. His rebounding, man, is like something different. All right. What else you guys got? Got about 10 minutes left or so. Am I really out of water? Fuck. Yes, I am thirsty. My voice is raspy. Need some seltzer. Too much talking. Police chases put a lot of stress on the voice too. Just nonstop streaming, man. Can't wait till the summer. First world problems. How about the teams that didn't make the playoffs have their own turning to no. Players will never play for a better draft pick so they can be replaced for cheaper. Players do not care about draft positioning. Now, if you want to put the executives on the floor and have them play in a tournament, that I would watch. Watch the suits play for draft picks. Can you imagine? Who would win that? James Jones, Phoenix? If every front office was in a tournament to determine draft picks, Elton Brand in Philadelphia, James Jones in Phoenix, those have got to be your two front runners. Who else am I missing? Can Nico Harrison hoop? Can Rob Pelinka hoop? Knicks are in trouble. I don't think Leon Rose can hoop. Daryl Morey's in trouble. Brad Stevens, he can hoop. Landry Fields would have been a great one. I don't know. Well, no, Ryan Smith isn't. It would be Danny Ainge. We can't be having. Can owners participate in this? If Ryan can play, then yeah, Utah is in business. No assistant coaches. Only executives and owners. I think Masai can hoop. Calvin Booth would have crushed. He would have been Shaquille O'Neal. Him versus Elton Brand. Oh, Dunleavy. I feel like Dunleavy still got it. That's a good one. So maybe we need to do a one-on-one tournament to determine draft order. more so than 5-on-5. General manager, president of basketball ops. Yeah, unfortunately, I've done the last like 5 hours on the Shea Whistle stuff, so I don't really want to do it again. Jordan, yeah, Jordan would get the first pick every year, and then he'd still draft Adam Morrison. Ryan Smith can hoop as much shit as I give him. I cannot believe how good that guy is at golf, man. That is so ridiculous to me that someone is that talented. He is the best non-pro I've ever seen. Do not tell him this. Do not let him see this because it'll just boost his ego. Man, I played golf every day of my life trying to go to college with it. I know people that have been on like semi-pro tours, tried to make the PGA tour. I've played with a lot of really good players. Ryan Smith is by far the best. He is a stick. I can't believe it. He doesn't even warm up or practice. The fuck? You know how much time I put in to be like a 5 handicap? And we played with Coach Hardy too. Coach Hardy's good. Coach Hardy's a little bit better than I am. He's probably like a true 5-4 handicap. I couldn't believe my eyes, man. That dude take out a 2-iron from like 200 yards away and just put it 5 feet from the hole every fucking time. How does he have time to be that good at golf when he's running an NHL team, Qualtrics, NBA team, Real Salt Lake? Crazy. All right. It is 4:00. I'm exhausted. I need to go like make some dinner. I need to stop streaming. I'm fucking burned out. Too much today, as you can tell. Appreciate you guys hanging out though. Sign up for ProfitX if you haven't already. Use code WOB. It'll help us out a lot. I'll be back on Friday for another edition of Q&A. Maybe I'll make it to Friday the way I'm headed. Burned out by Wednesday is never a good sign, and Thursday nights is usually my late night out too, playing poker. So we will say goodbye until next time. Go Knicks, and again, that video won't be up until late. Tell all the Knicks fans out there. Unfortunately, that's just the way it's got to be. See you, friends.